If you've ever wondered what it feels like to step inside an iconic San Francisco Queen Anne Victorian, then you'll love the house tour I have for you this week. The Haas-Lilienthal House is one of the city's most remarkable Victorian time capsules, where 3 generations of the same family lived, making much of what we're about to see original to the home. The furniture, toys, china, fixtures, and even the scars left behind from the 1906 earthquake that devastated the city surrounding it, making this house still feel very much alive. This home offers us a rare look into the origins of San Francisco itself, a city shaped by diverse backgrounds, cultural traditions, and people seeking new opportunities on the West Coast during the late 19th century. So today, we're stepping inside this extraordinary Queen Anne Victorian, looking at the pieces left behind by the family, uncovering the story of the people who lived here, and why this home remains such an incredible piece of San Francisco history. Hi, I'm Allie, and welcome back to Fab Little Dish, where we celebrate vintage homes, historic interiors, and the stories that keep these places alive. If you love the stories these houses share, give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps support preservation and awareness for these beautiful pieces of our history. Now let's step in my backyard and head to San Francisco, California to explore the Haas-Lilienthal House. By the mid-1880s, San Francisco had become a city of reinvention, a place shaped by people arriving from all over the world, bringing along with them their traditions, skills, and hopes for a future they may not have been able to build anywhere else. That was very much the world William Haas stepped right into. William was born in Reckendorf, Bavaria, at a time when Jewish families in the region faced severe restrictions. In parts of Bavaria, laws limited marriage and family life for Jewish sons, often allowing only the eldest son to marry. As a result, many young Jewish men emigrated from the region, searching for better opportunities, hoping to create lives and families of their own. At age 16, William, accompanied by his brother, first sailed to New York. They visited Missouri, Idaho, and Los Angeles before settling in San Francisco in October 1868. And San Francisco, still growing rapidly in the decades after the gold rush, was exactly the kind of place where someone like William could start a new life. Once he arrived, William went to work for Haas Brothers, a wholesale grocery business led by his older cousin, Kalman Haas. Over time, William's brothers and cousins joined the company as well, and the business grew into one of the largest general supply firms in the American West. But William's influence extended far beyond the family business. He became deeply connected to San Francisco's civic and commercial life, with leadership roles tied to the Chamber of Congress, Wells Fargo, and Mount Zion Hospital. In 1880, at age 31, William married Bertha Greenbaum, daughter of the highly successful Bavarian dry goods merchant Hermann Greenbaum. She was an active and influential figure in San Francisco's German Jewish community, and in an era when women were still expected to live within very narrow social roles, Bertha and women like her found ways to expand what leadership could actually look like. She helped build and support organizations centered around education, culture, philanthropy, and working women, so it's no wonder William Haas took notice of her. To me, this is such an important part of the story because it shows an early blueprint of women creating systems of care and support long before they even had the right to vote. Before moving into the mansion, they had 3 children, Florine, Charles, and Alice, who grew up in this home with all of the privileges of an upper-middle-class family during the Gilded Age. Their youngest daughter, Alice, was born in 1885, just 1 year before the family moved into this home. And in 1909, she married Samuel Lilienthal, right here in this house. The Lilienthals were also part of San Francisco's German-speaking Jewish community. So with Alice and Samuel's marriage, this house became tied to another family, helping to shape San Francisco's early commercial and cultural life. After William died in 1916, Alice and Samuel moved back into this home to care for Bertha, and they never left. They raised 3 children, and Alice became the last member to live here. So when we walk through the Haas-Lilienthal house, we're stepping into the story of several generations of one family, shaped by immigration, Jewish tradition, business, philanthropy, women's leadership, and the evolution of San Francisco's culture itself. And through this family's story, we see the larger story of the city, a place shaped by migration, ambition, and cultural tradition, with this home standing as a rare surviving piece of San Francisco's early identity. The Haas and Lilienthal families both typically had around 6 to 7 staff members working here at a time. A chauffeur, maids, a cook, a nursemaid, laundry help, and a waitress. And census records show many were immigrants from places like China, Japan, Ireland, Germany, France, and Nova Scotia. It speaks to how layered San Francisco was as it was forming as a city, with people from all over the world seeking new opportunities, planting their roots here, and shaping what this city would eventually become. Located in the Lower Pacific Heights neighborhood of San Francisco, this beautiful Victorian mansion was built in 1886 by architect Peter R. Schmidt. The house is a prime example of Queen Anne-style Victorian architecture, characterized by its asymmetrical facade, decorative trims, stacked gables, and its iconic turret. It cost around $18,500 to build, and the original lot cost around $13,000, an astonishing amount at the time. The home is constructed almost entirely of wood, which is such a distinctly West Coast Victorian detail. At the time, redwood was abundant and relatively inexpensive in California, but it was also incredibly durable, so this practical material choice is one of the reasons why the house has survived so beautifully today. Another striking original feature is this rounded bay window. This would have been a true statement piece at the time because curved glass was extremely expensive to produce, even in the Victorian era. And then, of course, you have all of these decorative carved details that are so iconic to Queen Anne architecture. The scalloped shingles, the floral reliefs, and the layered ornamentation throughout. Some of these exterior motifs are actually echoed inside the home as well, creating this very beautiful connection between the exterior architecture and the interior design. The house's layout evolved over time, which is part of what makes it feel so layered. In 1927, a new wing was added with a garage on the ground floor and bedrooms above. Other updates followed over the years, including fireplaces and chimneys along the south wall, a rear porch, and a new roof. Even the exterior paint tells us something about the times when it was built. The gray body with dark window sash was a favorite color scheme in late 19th century San Francisco, reflecting the tastes and trends of the city at the time. Rather than being restored back to one specific moment, the Haas-Lilienthal House has been preserved as it evolved, as one family's home across generations. And I think that makes this home even that much more special. It looks back to the early years of the Victorian period, while also giving us hints of later architectural developments over time. You can see that transition in the softened lines of the house too. Later, Queen Anne homes often moved away from sharper angularity and began emphasizing more rounded, graceful forms. And one of the most remarkable things about this Victorian is that it survived the devastating 1906 earthquake and fires, which tore through the city over the course of 3 days. In an effort to stop the flames, firefighters used dynamite to blow up the buildings along the east side of Van Ness Avenue, the widest street in the city, hoping to create a fire break. And incredibly, it worked. The fire stopped within just 1 block of this house. The only visible damage was a crack in the wall near the stairs, which we will see shortly on the tour. It's a small but powerful reminder of just how close this house came to destruction. The entrance hall was designed to impress from the very first moment you walk in. Before guests even entered the main rooms of the house, this space immediately communicated something about the family's taste, status, and connection to modern life. Above us is a brass gasolier, a lighting fixture that shows off one of the great innovations of the late 19th century, electricity. But what's fascinating is that it could also operate with gas. At the time, San Francisco turned off electricity at midnight, so if the family needed light later in the evening, they could still switch to gas. So this fixture was both practical and symbolic. It showed that the Haas family was embracing modern technology, and it would have been a very noticeable status symbol from the moment guests walked in. The woodwork surrounding us here is actually redwood, but it was painted to resemble golden oak. Redwood was extremely abundant during the time in California, but it was not yet viewed as the rare wood we see it as today. So it was just cheaper to use this material and paint over it elaborate to make it look like a more expensive wood finish. Victorian interiors often played with craftsmanship and illusion, using clever materials and finishes to make things look more expensive and luxurious than they actually were. The walls have that same sense of illusion. They look rich and almost leather-like, but they're actually covered in a pressed wall covering made from paper pulp and cotton fiber. It was designed to imitate more expensive materials, giving the room texture, depth, and grandeur without the high costs. On the walls, we see portraits of William and Bertha Haas, a reminder of who this home was originally built for. And one of the most personal pieces here is the grandfather clock, which William Haas commissioned from Bavaria, where he was originally from. At the top, we can see a floral motif that echoes the carved details that we saw on the exterior of the house, a beautiful connection to the design and the architecture of the home. This is the formal parlor, which was the most elegant room in the house. The space was used for receiving guests, entertaining, and for formal occasions. Even William Haas's funeral was held right here in the parlor, which was common for the time. The doorways and wall panels are made of mahogany, giving the room a much richer and more formal feeling than the everyday spaces of the house we'll see later. The original fireplace is made from yellow sienna marble, a rich golden yellow stone with gray veining, and it created a very warm, luxurious focal point for this room. During the 1898 remodel, the family added this more elaborate classical molding on the top, above us here, including the egg and dart pattern, dentils, and leaf motifs along the frieze. These details give the room a more refined, almost European-inspired, elevated look. It's still Queen Anne in spirit, but you can start to see those later influences coming in. And this is the family parlor, a more relaxed, intimate space where the family would have gathered before and after dinner. The walls are covered in grass cloth, which was added in the 1920s, so this is another example how the house's style evolved with the family over time. But much of what we're seeing in here, the furniture, the wood paneling, and the overall feeling of the room remains original to the Haas family. Redwood paneling surrounds us again in this space, which again ties us directly to California. Today, the idea of using redwoods so freely can make you cringe because these trees are now so protected and valued, but in the 19th century, it was used as building materials all throughout the state. And tucked in the corner over here is an original John Henry Belter chair. Belter was known for elaborate, high-style Rococo Revival furniture, especially carved laminated rosewood, and his chairs became some of the most recognizable luxury furniture pieces of the 19th century. So having one of these pieces here definitely was a statement in itself. The fireplace in here is original, and it's made of Numidian marble from North Africa, and the entire room's warm color palette, from the red upholstery to the wood tones and wall coverings, were inspired by the colors within this stone. Dinner would be announced in here, and then they would all enter the dining room. This is the dining room, where family meals, holidays, special occasions, and dinner parties would have taken place. Like much of the first floor, this room has a darker, richer, more masculine, formal feeling, with deep colors, heavy woodwork, and a sense of Victorian elegance that was very much tied to entertaining. The walls are paneled in gold and oak, but in true Victorian fashion, not everything is exactly what it seems. Some of the wood grain was created with a faux painted finish, giving the room that rich, continuous look that we've also been seeing in other parts of the home. One of the most striking features in here is the ceiling. William Haas chose this coffered ceiling to imitate the ceiling in the boardroom of San Francisco's Wells Fargo Bank, where he served as a trustee. The dining table could be extended to seat up to 20 people. Overhead, the chandelier is another reminder that this house was built at a moment of transition. Like the fixture in the entrance hall, it was designed for both gas and electricity. The downward-facing lights were electric, and the upward-facing arms would have been used for gas. The exposed bulbs were also part of showing off here. Electricity was still very new and exciting, so people liked showing off light bulbs rather than covering them up. The light that was showing directly on the table was something very new for the time. It was rare to be able to see exactly what you were eating, so nobody wanted to cover up any of the light that was shining through. Near the dining room windows is a traditional Sabbath lamp, used to keep a flame burning during the day of rest when no work was to be done. It's a small but meaningful reminder of the family's Jewish heritage. And then there's these built-in cabinets, which are such a beautiful part of the room. They were used to display glassware, serving pieces, and beautiful pieces of the family china. So this room really brings together many parts of the Haas and Lilienthal's family stories. Their German Jewish heritage, William Haas's business connections, the rituals of dining and entertaining, innovations of the time, and the Victorian fascination with craftsmanship, technology, and display. Just off the dining room is this service room, which also served as the family breakfast room at times. This is where china, silver, and serving pieces could be stored and staged before meals while still staying close to the dining room. The built-in cabinets make the room feel practical, but yet very beautifully designed. And one of the most interesting details is this window, or a jib door, which it was called. It provides access to the porch and quick service entry for deliveries.
Wow. Deliveries were really convenient to come through here. You have to mess with a door on either side, and the kids would run out and play with that. Called a jib door. I believe that's what they're called on a ship also.
This space gives us a glimpse into how the household functioned behind the scenes. And here we're entering the pantry. To the left of us right here is a vintage plate warmer, which would have helped keep dishes warm before they were brought into the dining room. One of my favorite details, though, is this built-in storage. It's constructed right here in the wall, and it was used to keep the extra leaves for the dining table. I think that this is such a great use of space because those leaves for tables are so clunky and they take up so much room in closets. So this was a very practical use of space that I very much respect. Even the countertops here were designed with function in mind. They're made of wood, so the dishes were less likely to chip or break as they were being set down during all of the movement between the kitchen, pantry, dining room, and when it came to the time of cleaning them. Now we move into the kitchen, the true working heart of the house. One of the most practical features in here is the marble-topped working table. That cool stone surface would have been ideal for rolling pastry dough, making desserts, and keeping ingredients from getting too warm while the cook worked here. The stove is from the 1920s, and incredibly, it still works. Another reminder that this house didn't stay frozen in one decade, but continued to evolve with the family over time. And this was also a very personal space for one of the staff members of the home, the family's longtime cook, Tilly. She immigrated from Merthart, Germany in 1907 and worked here for 34 years. She became especially known for her Sunday night dinners, which tells you how central this kitchen was to her heart and to the life of the household. She remained with the family until Alice Haas-Lilienthal died in 1972, so this kitchen was a staple of her everyday. So while the dining room shows us the elegance of formal entertaining, this kitchen shows us the labor, skill, and devotion that was necessary to make all of that possible. In this hallway, we see Anagalapta wall covering again, an embossed material developed in England from pressed paper pulp and cotton fiber. We also saw many of these in the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose. Make sure to check out that video if you haven't already. This was an incredibly popular decorative feature during the Victorian era, so it's no surprise to see it in here as well. And these are the stairs. As we walk up the stairs, you can still see this huge crack in the wall. It's the only visible damage the house sustained during the 1906 earthquake. It's been intentionally left untouched to represent almost a scar of San Francisco history. reminding us just how close this home came to being gone forever.
This is a portrait of Mrs. Haas's mother, Rosalie Greenbaum, and it was done by her brother, Joseph Greenbaum. And down below that is something called a papelera. Papeles means papers in Spanish. And it was like a file cabinet of scrolls. It's from 17th century. And this was a 25th wedding anniversary from Florian and her husband to Allison. And
Up here on the landing, we see an antique scroll box, and there's also a display cabinet featuring little fans, purses, and other accessories from the Victorian era. And this is the children's room. It's one of the most charming little spaces in the house because so many of the toys in here actually belonged to the children who lived and grew up here. You can see these antique dolls, toy furniture, cradle, a pram, and this incredible dollhouse, which was built for the children by Morton Vrana, the family's chauffeur who worked here for 37 years. I love this detail because it makes the house feel so personal. These weren't just decorative objects brought in later, they were actually part of the children's world who lived here, preserved inside the home they grew up in.
I mean,
Feel the
when I was a little girl,
I would have loved this. Oh my gosh.
Maybe even now.
Yeah, me too. I know, I want it now.
So I wanted to show you this bloomers.
Wow. Oh yeah.
And the camisole and the overskirt, and then or underskirt rather, and then the dress with the pinafore, so you could get this dirty and wash that without.
Our lovely guide also showed us some vintage bathing suits that were made of, believe it or not, wool. Another indication of how different things used to be back then.
If you get this full of seawater, it's very heavy, so heavy that it's actually dangerous. And women could drown if they got into an undertow, because first of all, they were small and they didn't know how to swim. And so, okay, ready? It goes right
Wow,
into
that's
the-
cool. Pretty. Oh my gosh. This is one of the spare bedrooms, and it was originally used as a sitting room for the master bedroom. But after William Haas died, Bertha transformed it into a bedroom and turned the former master bedroom into her sitting room. So again, we're seeing the ways that the house adapted to the family's changing needs. One of the first details that catches your eye is this glass right above the window. It looks like stained glass, but it's actually art glass. Decorative colored glass used to bring pattern, light, and color into the room. It gives the space such a soft, almost jewel-like glow, and I love it. This is the second time I've been here, and each and every time, it definitely gives me pause. This room also has several pieces of furniture from the arts and crafts movement, including a set of 9 pieces decorated with a peacock motif. This matching peacock detail is so interesting because it connects the late Victorian love of ornamentation, nature, and beauty, but it also ties us back to the arts and crafts movement on handcraft and design. And then, of course, there are all of these little details. Even the hinges, doorknobs, and hardware have ornamentation on them. Those little Victorian touches remind you that nothing was treated as practical. This bathroom was remodeled around the turn of the 20th century, and you can really see how modern and luxurious it would have felt for the time. There's a full bathtub, a separate shower fixture, a large built-in vanity, and even a bidet. Since the family was German, this is a European-influenced part of the bathroom, and it's something you would not see in every American home. From the tile work to the mirrors, hardware, and lighting, even here, the functional parts of the house were treated with a sense of elegance. This room was originally the master bedroom, but after William Haas died, Bertha converted it into her sitting room. I love that detail because it shows how the house continued to shift with the family's life. And here we get one of the best views of that beautiful rounded bay window. From inside, you can really appreciate the curved glass, which would have been an expensive and impressive feature at the time and still is. It brings so much light into the room and it softens the whole corner of the house. Again, we see art glass above, which brings so many different colors into the space, really illuminating the room. And tucked back here, we can even see the original closet of Mr. William Haas, a little lived-in detail that gives you an intimate peek into the everyday life of this home. So while this began as a bedroom, as Bertha's sitting room, it became something more personal, a place to read, sit by the fire, and be surrounded by family portraits, memories, and quiet conversations. And over here, we see a picture of Bertha when she was using it as her sitting room, to really give you a peek of what it was like when she was living here and transform this space into something of her own. And this was the laundry room. Here you can see the deep utility sinks, washboards, ironing tools, and even the clotheslines, all reminders of how physical and time-consuming laundry would have been before modern machines. And one of the most unexpected time capsule spaces on this tour is this model train room. In the 1920s, Charles Haas, the son of William and Bertha, gave these electric trains to his young son, William. When the large 1927 edition was built, this train set was brought in and assembled in the attic as both a trunk room and as a playroom for the children. And Morton Vring, the family chauffeur, shows up here again. He worked here for 37 years and he designed and built the electric train layout. The trains were used until around 1943, and the whole layout remained virtually untouched in the attic until 1975, when volunteers carefully cut into sections and moved it down here in the basement. So what we're seeing now is almost exactly how it appeared in the attic, and we're really lucky to be able to see it running because our guide was saying that it rarely turns on and works the whole time. So let's enjoy this little nostalgic moment together.
Yay! That's cool.
As we leave the Haas-Lilienthal House, what stays with me the most is that it's a reminder of what San Francisco was built on. Families coming here in search of opportunity, bringing their cultures, ambitious nature, and traditions along with them. For 3 generations, this house held the everyday life of a single family. Their celebrations, their grief, their heritage, and all of the small, everyday, ordinary moments that made this place feel alive. Because so much of it remains intact, we're able to experience the home through their world and their eyes. We're able to step into another era and witness not only the evolution of Victorian design, but also the evolution of San Francisco itself. To me, that's what makes this house so incredibly special. It represents perseverance. It survived earthquakes, fires, changing tastes, and a changing city. And still, it remains. It stands as a rare surviving piece of San Francisco's Victorian past. A home that carries the memory of the people, traditions, and the stories that help shape the city we know today. If you loved this intimate peek into San Francisco's history through the eyes of this home, please give this video a big thumbs up and make sure to hit subscribe, because I'm heading back to where my roots are, the East Coast, and I have a ton of house tours that I'm bringing your way. You're not going to want to miss out. Until next week, my friends, keep enjoying the beauty of vintage home. Au revoir.